The Seahawks are going to the Super Bowl. They'll get a chance to enact some long overdue revenge against the Patriots after winning a wild NFC Championship game versus the Rams. Seattle Sports 710 radio host Stacey Rost is here. Let's light him up.
I'm Jacson Bevins, and this is Cigar Thoughts.
Welcome back to the Cigar Lounge. I am Jacson Bevins, and along with my Byzantine producer, Mike Barwin, this is the Cigar Thoughts podcast. And man, I cannot believe the Seahawks got here so quickly. Stacey is going to join me momentarily, but first, cigars and whiskey. Cigar Thoughts is proud to be partnered with Seattle Cigar Concierge and Belveni Single Malt Scotch Whiskey. Seattle Cigar Concierge and I have teamed up to release two versions of high-quality Cigar Thoughts stogies, both of which you can purchase by following the link on the show page or by visiting cigarthoughtsnfl.com. Mike and I love doing this show, and there are two ways y'all listening and watching can help support it so we can keep the episodes coming. One is by purchasing the cigars, and the other is by subscribing to our YouTube channel at Cigar Thoughts, where you can watch full episodes as well as the funny and insightful clips that Mike puts together. Give a thumbs up to the stuff you like, and let us know what you think in the comments. And of course, you can listen to us everywhere you get your podcasts. Look, I'll be honest, I am still buzzing from Sunday. It was such a fun day of excited, nervous energy. So in the morning, I went for a long walk through Whatcom Falls Park, and then I was still too amped up, so I went and played 9 holes of golf. And I still couldn't sit still, so I went to the gym, and even then, it was all for naught because I spent that whole game pacing and praying and reveling in the Seahawks being at the center of the football universe during an all-time classic NFC Championship game. But the heart rate has finally settled down enough to talk about it. I had a very cool opportunity to write a spur-of-the-moment Cigar Thoughts article after the game, which you can find on Field Goals, and I will say I missed how that has helped me gather all of the thoughts and emotions and memories of the game into one place. And now I'm here with one of the true friends of the show and one of the easiest people to talk ball with that I know. You know her as the co-host of the Bump and Stacey Show on Seattle Sports Radio 710 and the star of a couple of Cigar Thoughts live draft reactions. She is Stacey Rost. Stacey, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great.
I mean, what? Yeah, right? Like, what kind of question is that? We're at
Seahawks are in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
There'd have to be a lot else going wrong for me not to be on Cloud 9 right now. Yeah. I imagine we are recording this on Tuesday. I imagine the first couple of shows this week for you have been more enjoyable than some of the ones in the past.
Let me tell you what, I have been doing this for my first year was shortly before COVID. So that was a challenge to figure out what to talk about when there were literally no sports. We had whole episodes, like on-air shows for 710. Like, man, last night's premiere of The Last Dance was great. Such a good show. You want to talk about the Korean Baseball League? And now, so I've never covered the Seahawks as a Super Bowl team. I started in 2015 and I found myself like literally doing these topic trees where you search like, here's what I want to talk about. And I was like, we have to do minimum 2 shows, 8 hours. We have to do minimum 8 hours on just this game and just like where they are right now before we even get to a preview. There was so much stuff. And then you want to look back at the season. It's unreal. So easy.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about this game on Sunday. It is without question the biggest Seahawks game in over a decade. And we always kind of knew the last time they were this good, you had a lot of faith in them in the big moments because we had seen it. And there was a feeling of, yes, there is some trepidation, but still confidence going into those previous 2 NFC Championship games that they ultimately won against the 49ers and the Packers. How were you feeling coming into this game? And let me back it up a little bit. Did you want the Rams?
No. No. I'm not that person that's like, Lord, give me your toughest battle. I was very much like, go Bears, like, let's get this done. Let's go Panthers, get the spread, make it happen. Unfortunately, it ended up that you got back-to-back divisional matchups. I did feel much better going against the 49ers. The 49ers looked like a team that like probably shouldn't have made it out of the first round. And I was like, look, I'm glad that they don't have to face the Rams in the divisional round. However, with that Chicago game, I was thinking, look, Chicago's tough. Like, Caleb can make any throw. This defense gets a ton of takeaways, but like neither of these are going to be easy. But no, I don't want the guy who just threw for like how many, over 450 yards against you in your last meeting. I don't care if it was a win. Absolutely not. This is the number one scoring offense in football. And of course, it ended up happening, and we are all the better for watching it. It was a fantastic 3-game series this year.
Yes.
Save the best for last, I think.
No, it was an amazing trilogy, and I was thinking back to the 2013 season and what the Seahawks and the Rams had this year is very similar to what the Seahawks and the 49ers had, and I was like, oh, how was that trilogy compared to this one? I bet it was really similar because we all know how dramatic the actual NFC Championship game was. But it wasn't really like that. Like, the 49ers looked like the much better team in the first game, and then Seattle beat them 42-13. I believe it was a Sunday night game late in the season. It was the Cam Chancellor, Vernon Davis hit, and it was sort of their like true arrival party as this great team. Every single game with the Rams felt different than the one before it, and yet every single one came down to essentially the final drive. And what I'm curious about was, having seen them play those two games, and so much was made about they split. They were only 1 point apart. They were only 1 yard apart. I don't know if you saw the all-time series numbers where they were 1 win and 1 point apart in the 57 matchups all time. But going into that, knowing Seattle was at home, coming off the 49ers game, the Rams really kind of struggling to get through their first 2 games. Confidence level 1 to 10 going into it.
Maybe it's just over 50-50. Had the Rams not struggled so mightily against the Panthers at times and the Bears, I think I'd feel if they had dominated both teams, I would have been like, man, maybe this is where the road ends. Like, what a season. But like, they've just felt unstoppable when they're at their best. But the version you saw of the Rams post that Thursday night loss to Seattle, I mean, they went on to lose to the Falcons, a Falcons team that was completely eliminated from the playoffs. Don't run into Atlanta when they're eliminated, I guess, because they become a problem. Look out for them. Look out for all the NFC South. Any eliminated teams in the NFC South are just nightmares for everyone else. And then against the Panthers, they allowed 31 points. The Panthers would have been the highest scoring, tied for the highest scoring team of wildcard weekend had they actually won and not allowed, the Rams to pull ahead. And then against the Bears, it was the same thing where you're like, man, the two not bright spots, the two greatest talking points about the Rams, Sean McVay, Matthew Stafford, the marriage between the two, the arm of Stafford, the ability that he has, and Sean McVay's mind and his scheme, both of them looked bad. Matthew Stafford was completing 53% of his passes in those 2 games. And so I think I was leaning more towards, I know the Seahawks can get it done. I am not entering this one thinking that they need to be anything other than a good version of themselves to make it happen. I did not anticipate the game looking like it did, which I'm sure we'll get to. I thought that they would need to win in a very different way, but I thought that they could. I was probably a 6 out of 10.
Okay, yeah, that someone at the office was asking me that when I was leaving on Friday. Said, how confident are you? And I didn't have an answer ready. I was same thing. I was like, it's more than 50-50, but
not much more.
I said if they play this game 10 times in Seattle, I think Seattle wins 6 of them.
Yeah.
And that really is how that game played out. I mean, it could have gone. You look at the score and you look at the numbers, and it's very easy to say that this was a game that really could have gone either way. But in reality, outside of down 13-10 for 2 total drives, Seattle led this entire game, and they led by 2 scores for a decent chunk of the second half. And so I don't come away with this feeling like the Seahawks got lucky. I don't think the Rams would have been lucky had they won, but it also doesn't feel like there was anything fluky about this. Yeah. And yes, there were a couple of big swings, I think, by both teams, big mistakes by both teams, but those happen in pretty much every football game. And outside of that, I really felt like we saw 2 teams playing great football, and I was going to be satisfied as a football fan with whoever won that one.
Yeah, it was like we got a really cool Super Bowl. is what we
Yep.
got. We got an amazing
Yep.
Super Bowl watch. We're all going to enjoy the actual Super Bowl with Super Bowl 60, but this was, all of us thought, I'm sure you did as well, the two best teams in football. I'm so glad, by the way, that you mentioned you didn't feel like it was flukish, because one thing we got, sometimes we'll get trash talk from opposing fans who will hop on the text line or whatever. You know, you jump into an opposing radio station.
Oh, yeah.
And I think a lot of what we heard was, you guys are so lucky that 2-point conversion went your way, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, hang on. Giving up a 16-point lead was not because of a 2-point conversion. You lost because of issues on special teams. You allowed a return touchdown. That's one of your issues. Maybe you shouldn't be 32nd in spending there. Then you missed a field goal. That's you. That's a 10-point swing entirely on you, unrelated to any kind of, officials interfering with anything. So the second thing is, I think everyone was very conveniently forgetting that in the first game, Seattle outpaced Los Angeles and almost every single category. It wasn't a bad Seahawks game. Sam Darnold threw 4 interceptions. That's why they lost. And even I love the way that Ray Roberts talked about it. He was like, they lost by 3 feet, or 3 yards. If they get just a little bit closer, sink that kick, and they've swept this season series. So I think Seattle wasn't getting, despite being a number 1 seed, and I hate it when people do that thing of like, everyone overlooks us, when they definitely don't. Like, I listen to so many national podcasts. The Seahawks have been a topic of conversation all season long. But
absolutely,
even then, I think there was just greater belief in Sam Darnold and the Rams, and in that offense being more predictable than defense, or than what Seattle was doing. And so there was a sureness that came with it for a lot of people.
Yeah, I think that I look back over that game, it was awesome because it's easy to look at a defense like the Seahawks and just say, oh, that is why they win, right? Like they win because this defense is impenetrable. And yet in back-to-back games against the Rams, they've been anything but. And I've said it on this show, I've said it on other shows, that the Rams, with the combination of McVay, Stafford, and Nakua, are able to access parts of the Seahawks defense that I truly don't think there's another offense in the NFL that can. And it's not just throwing deep. It's being able to run precision routes and timing routes 20 yards downfield. Because not only does that require incredible anticipation from your quarterback, there's just not that many people who are making those throws. And I think from a degree of difficulty standpoint, multiplied by consistency standpoint, the best thrower of the football on planet Earth right now is Matthew Stafford. And then there is, of course, along with the Seahawks' number 1 receiver, a case to be made that Puka is the best receiver in the NFL right now. And then when Devontae's your number 2, I mean, they can make a great defense look bad. And so for the defense to give up, 64 points in the 2 games against the Rams and still win both of them is actually encouraging to me, because it means you are not the Texans or the Broncos. Like, you can go win a game with your offense when you need to, because sometimes you just need to.
Yeah, and scoring as an offense 30 points in both of those games. I know you mentioned that's exactly what makes them not the Texans, is that you actually have something to respond with. I think it's also encouraging that it's only been against the Rams. There was a really cool stat earlier today about, you mentioned those like 64 points or whatever it is, that they've given up almost, I think the difference is 3. They've given up almost as many points in 2 games against the Rams as they have in their other 7 wins against other teams. It's crazy. And so it's like, look, I could understand someone seeing that game and being like, oh God, do we have a pass rush question? Is there like a predictability with certain stunts or looks? Is there, someone not getting home? Like, what's with the explosive plays? I've not really seen any of those questions from listeners, because 2 of their 3 bad games this year were against the same team, the number 1 scoring offense. And then the other one was against a very healthy Buccaneers offense. And you were down to like your 3rd string guys pretty much into over the, you know what I mean? Like you can find excuses for all of these.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And, I think that one of the biggest surprises for me in this game, like as I was watching it, because we can lie to ourselves with our brains, but it's much tougher to lie to ourselves with our hearts. And when you're watching even your favorite team, your gut and your heart are telling you what you really feel about your team versus the opponent. And, I felt like Pete Carroll early in his career, first 5 years in Seattle, I shouldn't say career, his tenure in Seattle, I felt like there was an edge, an aggressiveness edge, if not like a schematic edge. Certainly he was building something on the defensive side that the NFL wasn't ready for yet. I felt that he was going to be more aggressive than the other coach. And then for the last few years, specifically when it comes to Sean McVay and Kyle Shanahan, I could see where Seattle had some advantages personnel-wise, but I was like, we're going to get outcoached in these games. When it comes to modern NFL football, we're going to get outcoached by these two. And I kept waiting for that feeling in this game, and I didn't at all. I saw the other coach get emotional. I saw the other coach choosing the suboptimal fourth down and time management positions, and at no point did it cross my mind that Mike Macdonald was going to fuck it up. And I was like, what is this feeling of calm?
What is this certainty and this confidence
That's right.
that I have?
Like, even if they lose, it's not going to be because there was a bonehead decision made or an emotional decision made on the sideline. It's just whether it works out or not, I am at least going to be able to understand the process behind it.
I would bet money, real American tender, that Mike Macdonald would say that in both games he had some kind of a coaching failure, right? Like he already said about that first one, like, I think I gave them too much. It was a short week and I just overloaded with information and I didn't love the way that he rolled out that game plan or whatever. And then in the second game, maybe it was personnel, maybe it was whatever it was. I would anticipate that he says, I messed something up there. I didn't prepare for X, Y, and Z. Overall, though, I completely agree with you, and that I think that he's been wonderful. Like, I've not had thoughts about clock management or the wrong challenges for certain things. I also think, though, that a massive part of what's closing this gap is exactly the benefit Seattle had early in Carroll's tenure, which is they do have the personnel this time around, right? Like that, I know it's so boring, but that does make a huge difference. That personnel gap was massively pronounced when the 49ers were really rolling, like that kind of 20, maybe not 19 per se, but that's when you started to clearly see it, certainly defensively. And it just became very obvious at one point that the Rams and the 49ers had better personnel across the board. And so in addition to those coaching questions not being questions for us, right? There's a lot of confidence that your coach is a madman who's going to be obsessed with this. There's also been a closing of that gap, and if anything, a surpassing of your divisional rivals.
Yeah, we had our friend Michael Sean Dugar on last week, and he said, look, the introductory press conference for Mike Macdonald could have been one sentence long from John Schneider. We brought him in to beat Sean McVay and Kyle Shanahan. Because Carroll had success against them when they were early in their careers. And then it flipped. And over the last, I think, 4 years, it was bad. It was like, 2-9, 2-10, something like that against those two coaches. It was clear that needed to change. And I like it when it's like, you know what? We have a very specific goal, because it's easy for an organization to come in and say, well, we want a different culture, or we just want the team to do better. We have higher expectations. But to be so specific and so pointed at the division rivals, I was like, okay, all right, let's see if Smike's got it. And he does. He clearly can at least stand toe-to-toe with them. And for everything that we've talked about and so many people have talked about the Seahawks' defensive struggles against the Rams these last two games, the Rams have had 8 fourth quarter possessions in those two games and have scored 0 points. So no matter what they were able to do when the chips were down, the Seahawks defense held them scoreless 8 consecutive fourth quarter drives. Of course, they gave up a touchdown in overtime, but think about that.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. I mean, look, they were 1 of 8 on third down, 13% in this one. So I feel like that checks out with kind of what we've seen. But I think what I love about that too, first of all, yeah, you want to bring in a head coach that is geared towards winning your division, your absolute best path to the playoffs. But Shanahan, not only like that Shanahan-Kubiak tree, but also McVay's philosophies are so hugely influential throughout the league that it's like, great, fantastic. You're fighting people that are 2 of the best play callers in the NFL. That's a pretty good bar to set. Like if the people that if you brought someone in to fight two of the best play callers and go toe-to-toe with them in the league, I think you can take on Josh McDaniels, or no disrespect to him, but like there are other people that like, fantastic. You're not just trying to dig your way out of a hole in the NFC South.
Yeah, it doesn't feel, and I am not going to be one of those people that shortchanges the Patriots leading up to this game, but it doesn't feel like the big boss is still waiting. It feels like they got through the big boss kind of already, and it's very easy to get out ahead of yourself going into a game where you're favored and all that. But I say it more as like, oh, this is going to be so much easier, versus now there is proof of concept that in the biggest moment, we can trust what Mike Macdonald has going on, and we can trust him in those big moments. Question for you during the game: at what point, outside of I'm not talking, you don't get to say, oh, when the scoreboard read triple zeros. I'm talking during the flow of the game. When did you feel most confident that the Seahawks would win? And when did you feel the least confident that the Seahawks would win?
When they pulled ahead, was there one point when it was like 24-13? Somewhere around there. I think there was a certain point when I thought, I'm still nervous because everything's riding on this, and selfishly, like, it's better for business when they win, and sometimes it's tough when they lose, right? Like, I have to get through 20 hours of content a week now when people are sad about their team not making the playoffs. That sucks.
Yes.
That's tough. So selfishly, you're still nervous no matter what. But I think that's when I started to think, if this were any other team in a regular season game, you would feel like they've got it. Even though the Rams had been responding, there was a specific point when, maybe it was the Cup touchdown, I can't fully remember, when I thought they've got it done. Least confident, Rick Willis taunting penalty. Yep. That's when I thought, I think they might have got, not like lost to them the game, but like even before the touchdown, right after Nakua, I just thought like, that feels fated. That feels like something where you are, like, this is going to be something we talk about tomorrow, isn't it? I already know.
Yeah. And my answer to my own question is the same for both halves of it. My most confident and least confident was Reek Woolen, because they were up 31-20 after the Cup touchdown that you mentioned late in the third quarter, I believe. Yeah. And it was 3rd and 12 when he made that play. And I'm team taunt. Like, I think it's ridiculous that we have a sport that is literally modeled after warfare, and these dudes are killing themselves and all this stuff, to be like, actually, you know what?
But then swing.
We're going to swing the win probability in this game because you were actually a little too mean, or you were mean for too long.
Yeah.
And it's like, by the same token, you have to know that that's how it is. Like, I thought it was stupid that the NFL was suspending players for smoking weed, but you still know back in the day that the rule was you can't smoke weed, right? So it's like, okay, it might be a dumb rule, but you're at least aware that it's there.
But listen, Josh, you got to do it.
That's right.
I'm sorry, buddy.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's like, when that happened, and then of course, and this is the most, Stafford's a little bit Hollywood since he went to LA. God bless him. Those teeth are shining, and he's living his best life and all of this. And McVay, of course, he's golden boy in the coaching ranks, but these dudes are killers. And the fact that they just dialed up a one-on-one deep with their best player against Reek immediately after that, I was like, this is the shit that killers do to win championships. Yep. And I was so curious to see how they would respond. But the heart sunk. And you're talking about, man, am I going to have to talk about this tomorrow? Stacey, I think you would have been talking about it for 6 months. And it would have been such a shame to have the offseason after such an incredible, fun, promising season get reduced to Reek and the taunting penalty. And I wonder just exactly how much money Sam Darnold and co. saved Reek Woolen in free agency this year by coming through and winning that game. I mean, because with Woolen that there's two sides of the coin. And it's the same thing with DK, right? People are like, oh, sure, DK's good, but the penalties and this, that. It's like, okay, but if you take away the part of DK Metcalf that gets the penalties, you're going to take away the part of DK Metcalf that erases dudes in run blocking and that can take a 4-yard slant and stiff arm 2 people and house it, right? Like, yes, it would be great if you got all the good and none of the bad. It's just the duality of man. You're not going to. But with Reek, he was a trade candidate at the trading deadline. He was like 6th in line for reps midway through the season.
Benched multiple times.
And he responded to that by playing great and playing himself back into being arguably the premier corner on the market this year, which is going to be a $20+ million a year thing. And teams were going to see that if they had lost and been like, I don't know. And so for the Seahawks to go out, for the whole team, for the offense, for the rest of the defense not giving up points in the fourth quarter like we talked about, for the offense to go out and answer and with that final drive, I think Woolen understands how close he came to his career truly taking a different trajectory.
Yeah, definitely hitting his wallet. I think, too, that because they still won, you were able to view everything that happened around that moment a bit differently. So, for instance, had they
100%.
lost, you're looking at Nicky Manwari and Woolen getting into it in the sideline going like, oh, man, that doesn't look good. But they won, so you're like, love that rookie's got that dog in him, man. Everything's so much easier. Yeah. Like, they won, so then you have Julian Love postgame. I actually really liked his press conference. You have Julian Love postgame going, I get it, but he knows what he did. And basically, he wasn't calling out anyone saying, cut him. But what he was speaking to was the mentality of like anger at Reek Woolen to the extent of like taking him out and saying like, what are you need this person. Like you just kind of have to accept that a mistake happened and move on because you need this person to win. All of that was so much easier to say when they had won. Like I don't know what the conversation is if they lose, but instead you get 2 really brilliant bits of dialogue and conversation around a rookie getting into it with Woolen and then a veteran on that defense saying something that I think probably we should hit replay anytime a player does something someone doesn't like and they go cut him and you're like, well, wait a minute. You have to leave room for mistakes and you have to leave room for lots of variances in personality and temperament when you're coming up with a championship team.
Well, and the thing about having, I always get frustrated when, a rookie running back especially fumbles the ball and then they just get benched, right? Mm-hmm. And it's like you drafted this guy because he is talented. You're giving him the ball because he is talented. And then you need these guys to play free, but if they feel like one mistake, and frankly, I don't understand how there aren't 20 fumbles in every NFL game. It boggles my mind. But it gets punched out by a superhero, and now he just has to sit there and think about it and watch his confidence go in the tank. It's like, I remember when Kareem Hunt was a rookie and Spencer Ware was going to be the starting running back for the Chiefs that year, and he got hurt in preseason, and Kareem Hunt started the game. It was a Monday night game against the Patriots, I think. Texans, maybe. Yeah, Romeo Crennel was the other coach. Texans. And on his very first carry of his NFL career, he fumbled the ball. And Andy Reid put him right back in on the next game, and he set a record for rushing yards in a season opening debut. He had like 237 or something like that in that game. And I'm like, that's it. The guy fumbles twice. Okay, now you can't put him back out there. He's a liability. But like, keep that confidence up. And for them to not yank Reek Woolen after that, to keep him out there, he actually had a fantastic rep 2 drives later against Devontae. That was really, really impressive. And it's like, he was starting in this game for a reason. The fact that they stuck with him, I thought says a lot going into this Super Bowl. It's a lot less of a question going into the Super Bowl because you stuck with him.
I think in general that speaks to like the high emotional IQ that good coaches have to have, right? It's so easy to sit from afar and go, I don't like that guy. That guy's got an attitude, get him off the team. And to be a coach that recognizes how growth actually happens. Right? It's the same. I mean, the opposite end of that is having the coaching IQ to know when a guy's in his head. You talked about that killer mentality from Sean McVay. Yeah, that's why not only you go Puka no matter what, but Puka's on Woolen for a reason with that touchdown.
100%.
So
100%.
That's just great. It's the intangibles of coaching and of playing, frankly. Like that's the stuff that like There's a lot of reasons I will never become an NFL player. Only one of them is that I'm in my 30s.
It's the only reason I can think of.
Right? It's never too late, I've always said. But one of them is the most underrated skill that really good players have is to put those things behind them in the rear view very quickly. And it is so incredibly difficult, especially when you're doing it in front of millions of people. And I think about that a lot in moments like that.
Yeah. Yeah. It reminds me of a story that we talked about on the show last week. And a lot of people have talked about because it was awesome. And it's Gray Zabel, when he was asked about Charles Cross getting the extension, and he told a story about how he had gotten beaten on a rep. I think it was in the first Rams game, actually, and was on the bench really down on himself. And Charles Cross came over and said, "Hey, defensive players get paid too." Mm-hmm. And it's like, this is going to happen. I remember seeing a quote or a clip in practice when J.J. Watt was with the Cardinals, and Rondale Moore had dropped a pass. He was a rookie, I believe, at the time, and really trying to earn his spot. And he dropped a pass in practice, and it was a mic'd up thing where he was just down. J.J. came over to him, and he's like, "How you doing, kid?" And he's like, "Man, I dropped the ball. Like, I can't afford to be doing that." And he's like, "Do you know how many times I've been knocked on my ass?" What would happen if the first time I lost a rep or messed up, I didn't get back out there, And I was just like, it's so easy to say, so hard to do, and so hard to do, especially like we have all felt shame. We have all felt regret. We have all felt like we've let people down. And that is such a raw feeling. And when you feel like maybe your career is on the line, what you are talking about is so valuable to recognize that feeling is real. Put it in a shoebox, slide it under the bed, and get back after it.
We could have a separate 3-hour interview and conversation about the psychology of neither of us having been professional football players, but just the interesting aspects to the psychology of playing and coaching that I could talk about this endlessly.
Totally.
Yeah.
And I mean, same thing. I totally could have been in the NFL. The only reason that I didn't is I looked around and I said, you know what the world is missing is a white guy blogging about sports.
That part.
Nobody has filled that niche yet. So I laid down the dream.
Thank you for your sacrifice.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just thought it would be it's a little unfair because we'd be too fast and too good.
Of course.
And
that's right.
My arm is too strong. Well, I would have been a nose tackle, but so that doesn't matter. But it's just it's a waste of our time and theirs.
It is.
I think.
It is.
Yeah.
Well, look, I've buried the lead on this game, and I did it on purpose because I wanted it to have the dance floor empty. Sam Darnold. I said it in this week's Cigar Thoughts. You're never going to hear me say a bad word about that man again. And look, I was very strong in my opinion that I thought moving on from Geno to Sam Darnold over a few $1 million was not a move I was happy with because I felt like Geno was performing very well given the circumstance that he was in. Do I think this team would still have been very good with Geno as its quarterback? Probably yes. Do I think the Raiders would be a Super Bowl team with Sam Darnold? No. But what happened was this was the circumstance. And what was immediately true that I did not give enough credence to early in the season was how much this team loves Sam Darnold. How when we were all killing him after the first Rams game, and I'm feeling vindicated in my preseason take that, when it's the Rams, when it's a big game, this is who Sam Darnold is. Ernest Jones is out there saying, fuck anyone who thinks this is on Sam Darnold. I'm like,
a good quote.
Okay, all right, but he did throw 4 interceptions. But the fact that that's what he's leading with, the fact that he is in doing, I think, an IG live in the locker room, smoking a cigar after going to the Super Bowl, and he's looking down and he's like, "Fuck all y'all that doubted Sam Darnold," and I'm like, "That's me. He's talking to me." And you know what? Fuck me. I get it. Fuck me, because what I'm not going to do is pretend that it wasn't an honest conversation to be had. Mm-hmm. That can Sam Darnold have a game like this in the biggest moment? Because we hadn't seen it. That conversation ended on Sunday.
Yeah.
He played his best game against his worst opponent in the biggest moment of his career, and he was granted no quarter by the Rams. There was no part of the second half of that game where he couldn't be excellent because they would have lost.
Yep.
Even that last drive where they didn't technically even score any points, for them to take over on their own, 5-yard line, 6-yard line, and have to get 4 first downs because the Rams were going to score if they got the ball back. That Seahawks defense was so gassed. Rams were carving them up. He went down, took it all the way down to 30 seconds. He made so many big throws. It was as good of a third down passing performance as I have ever seen in my life. He was not scared, but he also wasn't stupid. It was smart. It was decisive. It was excellent, top-tier, elite quarterbacking when his team needed it the most. I am so amazed by what we saw from the Seahawks quarterback on Sunday.
I felt like that was the story heading out of this one. I'm glad you saved us an empty dance floor here so we could spend some time talking about it. Let me just start by saying credit to you for saying, like, look, I was wrong. It's the hardest thing for people to admit. I was also wrong. You're not alone. And Mina Kimes is one of my favorite voices, getting a ton of flack because she has that tweet. Let me tell you guys what. We use a program for our job that saves hundreds of thousands of clips and sounds from not just our own shows, but from SportsCenter, from everything. If you search Sam Darnold, Geno Smith, which we've been doing, because one segment we did yesterday was finding like hot takes, people that were wrong about Sam Darnold. Let me tell you what. So many of your favorite voices we have had on the show say something along the lines of, Sam Darnold, like, likable guy, we'll see if it works out. Or like, I don't think. We've had someone say, like, they're not going to win a Super Bowl with Sam Darnold. They're not getting to the Super Bowl with Sam Darnold. I found that clip this morning from another voice that I really admire. And I think at the time, I thought, much like you, I was like, Geno's a good passer and did it facing so much pressure. The Seahawks offensive line was not good last year. I guess if their run game takes off, it's fine. I thought that would have to be their formula, that like they need to be the top run team in football.
And to be clear, Geno Smith spent his 3 years in Seattle with offensive coordinators that are never going to sniff that position again in the NFL.
What does Darnold
like completely
like
overmatched, right?
Either way, I loved this for Sam, and I thought it was not just doing enough. One thing that we had a guest on our show, and he said, I'm just waiting for Sam to meet the moment. And I said, well, look, it depends on what we're talking about. Are you waiting for Sam to have a gaudy stat line or for him to meet the moment? Because if you're just waiting for him to help the team to a win in a moment, he's already done that. Look at week 18. You're playing for the number 1 seed. You're playing for the NFC West. Number 1 seed for the first time since 2014. The West for the first time in 5 years. That's not a moment? Sam didn't he didn't turn the ball over. And, it wasn't enough. Okay. Well, here's the divisional round game against the 49ers. I know that everyone in hindsight was like, that 49ers team was so beat up. Well, then why was everyone hyping them up leading into that game? The entire thing was pitched in week 18, heading into week 18, like, oh my God, what if the 49ers get this done? You guys loved this team 2 weeks ago before we decided they were too hurt. Sam didn't do enough. Well, he didn't turn the ball over. And then I think that what they were really waiting for was like Sam Darnold to throw for 400 yards. And this was toe-to-toe with Matthew Stafford. And so at this point, if you're waiting to see more from Sam Darnold, you just don't like Sam Darnold. Or
just be honest about that. Right?
Or you don't want to be wrong. You don't want to be wrong. And you're like, well, no, I need to wait to see if he's Patrick Mahomes. Well, hang on a minute. No, the initial thing you were waiting to see was whether or not he could meet the moment. He has.
Yeah.
He has.
Yeah.
So.
And for me, and I said this, I was on the Ringer NFL show right after the Thursday night game with Sheil Kapadia, and Sam had not played well for like 3.5 quarters in that game. And it was like, he had 2 interceptions. He had the interception inside the red zone, down 16 with like 9 minutes left. And it was just like, fuck, maybe he just doesn't have it. And then, the drive that he had in overtime to win it was the best drive of his career. He had 3 incredible plays on that drive, and they were the 3 biggest plays of the season. And I remember saying, like, this changes the story, because Sheil's like, I know where you've been at with Sam Darnold. Does this change things for you? And I said, yeah, somewhat. It would be dishonest not to say that this didn't change it, because that moment was there, and he was there for it, and he did exactly what needed to be done. Not like, oh, he protected a lead, which that's all he had to do in those two most recent 49ers games. Let's be honest. They ran for more yards than they passed, but you're right. He didn't turn it over. This is still a quarterback that led the NFL in turnovers. Like, doubts were justified.
Sure.
But the worst takes to have are not the ones that you get wrong. It's the wrong ones that you cling to in the face of contrary evidence.
Well
like
said.
Nobody bats 1,000 having opinions on sports. And I would be completely dishonest to pretend like I saw this coming, just like I would be completely dishonest if I was still clinging to opinions I had of Sam Darnold 5 months ago. And so now I have all the confidence in him in the world. And, people can say what they want to say about, me not sticking to my guns or whatever. Look, there is evidence. The evidence I was waiting to see is here now. Sam's it. Sam's my guy. And you can get on me all you want for being late to the party on it. But I want to be in that party now because I've seen enough to believe that Sam Darnold can win when he is needed to win, not just guide a team that's running the ball well and has an all-world defense, but actually go win when he needs to.
Yeah, not to take it outside of sports, but like not being willing to change your view of something based on lots of relevant new information, like flying in the face of that is like part of a bigger problem with the country right now, but I digress. I think it's just this human thing that we do is we like being right. Being right and that feeling of self-righteousness is amazing. We hate being wrong. And I think that it's also just a really cool story for Seattle. Like there's an entire, I say can of worms, but I need a better phrase for it because I mean it in a really good way. The opposite of Pandora's box, but still a box that is opened and full of things. That's what I'm saying. A treasure trove, if you will, of conversations to come from
Aladdin's lamp.
Thank you. If the Seahawks, knock on wood, get this done, well, suddenly we get to have all these conversations, many of them around Sam Darnold, about roster building and roster construction with a free agent quarterback and being able to save some money there, about what it means and when you peak as a passer. My co-host, Michael Bumpus, today was saying, I'm not even ruling out the idea that Sam can't be a top 10 quarterback. He's like, maybe I'll end up being wrong, but like if there's one idea that I'm trying to challenge myself to have, it's that what I've seen from the first, let's say 3 to 4 seasons of a player is the entirety of what he can be, specifically when it's a quarterback. I thought that was interesting because I kind of looked at it as like, well, Sam doesn't need to be a top 10 all-time, or not all-time, top 10 quarterback in the league. Well, Bump was like, well, shoot, like, what if he improves next year? Like, there's nothing you've seen to say he can't hypothetically do that. Right. I just think there's lots of really fun conversations that Sam's success and Sam meeting the moment and really not being beaten by those mistakes, which I think is something really impressive. He did seem, I wondered if he was struggling with a little bit of some mental obstacles after that Rams game, right? Like maybe it's just because it coincided with some of those struggles, but you did start to wonder a little bit, did the 4 interceptions get to him? Is he in his head a little bit? But I feel like he has somehow been able to refresh and recenter, and it's a cool story. It's really cool to watch, man.
Yeah. It's just been such a season of really pleasant surprises, I think, because you can check the tape. I thought this team was going to be good this year. I thought they were an 11-win team, 12 if everything breaks right. I bet a literal mortgage payment on them hitting their over 8.5 wins before the season. Like, I was bullish on this team. But I didn't see the Seahawks here this quickly. So I want to ask you, when you rewind to your feelings, your even public predictions about this team before the season started, what did you get right?
Okay. Well, this wasn't a unique opinion, but I was fully bought into the idea that they could be the best defense in the league. Hi, welcome to like everyone's take. But it just felt like with the way that they were trending at the end of last year, with Mike McDonald's background, with the personnel that they had and the personnel they were adding, and even like looking at a rookie like Nick Emenwari without even seeing him on the field, you were like, this is very interesting. We were profiling him as a potential first-round pick for Seattle. So I was right, but as were many people, that this defense could quite seriously be the number one defense in the league.
Yeah, and I am right there with you. And yes, it had a lot to do with the personnel, but there's no Aaron Donald on this team. As of right now, there's not a Patrick Surtain on this team. There's not this player that, Myles Garrett and Max Crosby and some of these elite all-pro, no doubt, Hall of Fame track players like last time the Seahawks defense was really dominant. They had those guys where you're like, yeah, this is the best player at his position. And they have like 4 or 5 of those guys. They don't. They've got a bunch of really, really, really good players. But you look at it and it's like, there's not the game wrecker on this defense. But the reason I had so much faith in them being good and as I said, potential to be the number one defense in the NFL is because we've seen it from Mike Macdonald everywhere he's been. It's something I'm really fond of talking about on this show and that I haven't really heard a whole lot of other places. But when he went to Michigan to be their defensive coordinator, they were 116th in points allowed per game. And then the second year, they were like 20th. And the third year, I think they were number one among Power 5 teams. And then he goes to the Ravens, and we're so used to the Ravens having these great defenses. People forget they were 26th in points allowed the year he took over. And then they were like 9th his first year, and then number 1 his second year. Last year, we saw this defense struggle a lot in the first half of the season. And then they were top 5 in the back half. And I was like, this is just this exact same trend line on this graph as the first 2 that we saw with him. So, yeah, that I felt really good about, and it was cool to see that come to fruition. I was right about this offensive line being a lot better because of Gray Zabel being a steadying force on the interior, and then projecting some health from Abe Lucas, because now I think that you have 3+ starters on the offensive line, and there are so few teams who can say that. Like, yes, there are weaknesses to Jalen Sundell's game. Yes, Anthony Bradford is a favorite punching bag just because this team needs one. It's not like he's even been awful. It's just everybody else has been so good. But every fan hates their team's offensive line because the gap in talent between defensive linemen and offensive linemen has gotten so big just in terms of athleticism in the NFL. And so to have 3+ starters and 3 borderline Pro Bowl type players on the offensive line, that was really encouraging to see. And that was something that I saw happening and was really happy to see it. And the other thing was just Mike Macdonald, like having confidence in what we were talking about at the top of the show, having confidence in Mike Macdonald in his game management. We only see and hear so much about the Monday through Saturday stuff. And that's what I loved about Pete Carroll. I thought he was the best Monday through Saturday coach in the NFL. And then on Sunday, you just kind of hoped. And last year, Mike Macdonald, his first time as NFL head coach, still calling the plays on defense, to see him be prudent with his challenges and with his timeouts and with his 4th down decision making gave me a lot of confidence coming into this year that was going to continue, if not improve. What I got wrong, and I'm going to ask you the same question.
Oh, no.
What I got wrong.
Nothing.
Sam Darnold.
Yeah.
Did not see that. I will take an L on Nick Eamon-Warry, even though he was my favorite player in this draft. And even though I wanted the Seahawks to take him in the first round, and even though Greg Bell was on this show in August saying, this is Mike Macdonald's Kyle Hamilton 2.0, I was like, okay, I love the guy too, but he was raw as hell in college, and they're teaching him like 3 different positions. Like, let's pump the brakes a little bit. And Carson Schlesinger is going to win Defensive Rookie of the Year. But Nick Eamon-Warry is the best rookie defensive player in the NFL this year. And I did not see that happening this quickly. So I got Sam wrong. I got this unbelievable ascent from Eamon-Warry wrong. And I did not have them going to the Super Bowl. I got that wrong too.
I didn't either. I thought like your expectations should be that they make the playoffs. They didn't. They were the only 10-win team not to make the playoffs. Yes, of course that's your expectation, and that should be it. But I'm with you. One thing I got wrong in that case was that they wouldn't get to a Super Bowl. I thought that this would be. I was surprised by some of the guests we had. Someone said they wouldn't even be competitive this year, and I was like, really? Like, what are you going to go from 10 wins to what? Like, what are you talking about?
That's right.
I'm going to start, this is going to transition to what I got wrong, but I'm going to do a soft landing by patting myself on the back. I was right. And I actually talked about this with you. We had, I think I was on Cigar Thoughts after week 1. And I was right in that I had wide receiver depth questions, that wide receiver production behind JSN, there could be a dearth there. I was wrong in thinking that would matter at all. That's where
JSN's like, I'll just do all 3 jobs.
We played that Chris Sims sound so much today. And I was like, look, Chris, I get you. Brother, I've been there, okay? I was there 17 weeks ago, right with you, going like, oh, it can't just be the JSN show. And there's a certain point you just got to let it go and go, I guess none of that matters. They have all 3 of their losses. I should say the only 3 losses they have were all with JSN getting, I think, over 120 yards. He has had under 100 9 times. They are 9-0 in those games. It doesn't matter. He's had under 50 2 times. And I know that's still, quite a bit of production, but like it doesn't, if they take him out of the game plan, okay, well, now you have Rashid Shaheed. And I found myself saying that, like, when I was watching the Chris Sims audio, I was like, Rashid Shaheed just had a 51-yard reception. What do you mean? That's why you acquired him at the deadline. But yeah, I think the truth is sometimes this maybe a traditional football thought that you have of like, surely you need someone else behind this person. There's a certain point when the proof is in the pudding and you go, well, it hasn't cost them. They're in Super Bowl 60. They're one of 2 teams remaining. I guess that this very conventional thought I have about what a receiver room must look like just isn't true for this team.
Yeah. There is one other thing that I was really wrong about, and that is John Schneider. I had gotten pretty lukewarm on John Schneider. He was on my personal hot seat this offseason. And I was just like, okay, you built this great team with 3 of the best drafts we'll ever see in a row early on. And then they've just been what they've been for a decade.
You're not wrong.
And now you're trading the quarterback that I don't want you to trade. Now you're trading my favorite player on the team. You're bringing in Cooper Kupp and Sam Darnold to replace those guys. Like, I couldn't have been less inspired. And here he is. He's on another 3-season heater in the draft. He is his ability to time the quarterback market, which outside of drafting, maybe even in front of drafting, is the most important thing you can do as a GM. Like, for him to buy low on Russell Wilson and sell him at the absolute peak, for him to do the same thing with Geno Smith, it's like they were paying Geno Smith to stay on this roster behind Russ, and they committed to him pretty immediately afterwards. I mean, they had the quarterback battle, whatever, but it was very clear Geno Smith was going to be the quarterback, and everyone was on their ass about that. And he was great. And then they moved off of Geno at his peak and somehow got Sam Darnold for less. In hindsight, I say somehow. At the time, I was like, well, yeah, of course he's less. And now Sam is playing the best football of his career and delivering on the promise that he had as a 20-year-old top 5 pick. And so John Schneider also recognizing the moment to make that Rashid Shaheed trade, to go in and bring in the mercenary in DeMarcus Lawrence on the edge. I mean, these little moves, even drafting Torrey Horton, moving up to get Nick Emanwari. I mean, man, what an unbelievable run John had this year.
I don't know how he doesn't win Executive of the Year.
He did.
Well,
he did. The writers,
Press.
That's right. Yeah.
Pro Football Writers, he did. But TBD if at NFL Honors. Was he announced at NFL Honors? Whatever. The Associated Press. But he has done a phenomenal job. I don't think you're wrong in being critical for a period of time. We just mentioned earlier in your show about how there was a personnel gap. That doesn't happen on accident. That happens because of draft misses, right? And I think that what has been really interesting, we have the John Schneider show on Wyman and Bob, and that has, more than almost anything else, made me shift a lot of my opinion on John, because he's been very open about things that he's gotten wrong. And I think that that's kind of refreshing to hear. Now, there might be some kind of understandable, not defensive-ness, but like, hey, look, we're trying. This isn't as easy as you think aspect to it. But I think they truly have added red flags to character things that they didn't before, right? Like, I think draft picks like Malik McDowell are ones that they won't make it again. And similarly, but for different reasons, a draft pick of LJ Collier, I don't think is one that they would make again. He talked about feeling like they would too poorly prioritize when they should take someone and what they should need. And you've seen that reflected with them taking ballers, like just being like, yeah, we've got a good defensive back room. We're going to trade up and get this safety though.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. We've got Julian Love under contract. We're probably going to extend Kobe Bryant, but it doesn't matter. Bring Nick over here. And it's worked out for them. So it's been cool to hear, not full transparency, but I think the willingness to say, yeah, I've gotten it wrong before, and then see the product improve has been very cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And here they are in Super Bowl 60. I said it. I'm not the only person to have said this, but the idea, like, I'll take any path to the Super Bowl that you offer me for the Seahawks. But the idea that they won the number 1 seed against the 49ers in Santa Clara and then beat the shit out of them in the divisional round in Seattle and then beat the Rams to get to play the Patriots in the Super Bowl is a run of demon exorcism that you just dream of as a fan, because those are the 3 boogeymen in recent franchise history for this team. And they have a chance to not only win the Super Bowl, and you can't take rings away from anyone, but truly carve an unassailable story into the bedrock of the NFL by beating those 3 teams en route to a ring. Do you think that they'll do it?
Win Super Bowl 60? Yes. I think that, if anything, I've heard a little bit of underselling about how good the Patriots can be. I think that their defensive backs are better than the ones you're going to face from the Rams. And that's not a slight towards like an Emmanuel Forbes, but it is to say that like Gonzalez is maybe just going to be a little stickier, and that's going to be a challenge. Likewise, I think that Drake May is phenomenal. Yes, they benefit from a very weak schedule where like multiple head coaches of teams they faced have since been fired. But but they also put up a lot of points, and they all, you know what I mean? Like they, I think we had Aaron Schatz on who said like they still have one of the better DVOAs this season. Like they're a very good team. It's just that the Seahawks are a historically great one. And so that's what we're looking at here. And I think I see it the same way. Aaron's looking at DVOA and I'm just looking at eye test, where I think that the Patriots are good. It's going to be a challenge. It's going to be a challenge knowing that you're going to have to start your film study of them now because you have not been watching Patriots tape at all. But I don't remember the last time I had this much faith in a Seahawks team. It might have been 2013. Like there was a point in 2013, eventually 14, but when in 2013 you'd be like, yeah, they're going to win before the game even started. Like you would just feel confident. It's like they had a reservoir of talent. They had room to make mistakes because they were so good. And they're playing easy. They seem really confident. And I don't think it's hubris. I mean, we're talking about the Patriots, okay? Look, they're the most fortunate franchise in all of the NFL. By no means is this an underdog you're looking by just because you're favored. Yes, I absolutely think they can get this done.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the Patriots provide different challenges than the Rams did, the secondary being the biggest one. The way that their quarterback wins, I mean, Stafford will probably win the MVP this year, but if he doesn't, it will be Drake May. I mean, they have a chance to take down the top 2 MVP
or
candidates
Trevor Lawrence
this year. Right? I mean, Lawrence was freaking incredible down the stretch.
However,
but yeah, that's right. And so, the way that May wins is different than the way that Stafford wins. I think that they run the ball very similarly to how the Rams do it. And I think that the way that their defense is playing right now, and you can look, I say it all the time. I do not discount wins in the NFL. They're hard to get. Everybody in the NFL is really good at football. But it's a broken Chargers offense. It's broken Texans offense. It's the Broncos in the snow without Bo Nix. It's the Jets in week 18. It's this run of really bad offenses that they've beaten, but they've done it allowing 26 points in 3 postseason games. It's the lowest in NFL history by a team that has played 3 postseason games. And so it's like, okay, they've only scored 58 or whatever it is in 3 games, but that's still plus 30 something in 3 games in the playoffs. Like, that's so difficult to do. And so it's not just that these offenses are bad. They are swarming these offenses. They are winning at the point of attack in the run game. They're winning on the edges in the pass rush, and they are playing really, really aggressive in the secondary. And that is not something the Rams have been doing. It just isn't. The Rams have not been getting to the quarterback. The Rams have not been sticky in coverage. They haven't been terrible, but they haven't been great. The Patriots have been great. But the Patriots also have weaknesses that the Rams don't. I'm not scared of anybody in that receiving core. And I think that their offensive line has been really, really exposed in these playoffs and bailed out by the defense. It's been documented so much how much trouble the Seahawks have had getting to Matthew Stafford. The sack that they had in that game, which I'll admit, got away with face mask on that one. It's their only sack of him in the last 4 games. That's not going to happen against this Patriots team. They are going to be all over Drake May. And Drake May is going to have to do the magical thing to keep his team in it.
Yeah, and Drake May has mobility that Stafford might not. I wouldn't say I'm like afraid of Diggs, but he is a 1,000-yard receiver. And I frankly don't love that Cardi B is on the Patriots side. This one hurts. You know what I mean? That's
been a tough one in my household as well.
Tough.
Yeah,
it's been tough.
We're big Cardi fans in the Bevins on Chalk household. Yeah, so that one's tough. But you know what? I mean,
you got
at some point
once in a while.
You got to choose. You know? I'm going to lean Seahawks on that. But yeah, that's
Cardi,
tough. That's
leading
tough.
up to the Super Bowl, but after for sure, but not leading up to the Super Bowl.
That's right. That's right. You got to stay true.
Yeah, but no, I completely agree with you that it will pose some challenges that the Seahawks haven't had yet in the postseason. But this is just, I don't want to say a beatable team. It sounds disrespectful, but I thought the Seahawks' single biggest challenge was getting past the Rams 3 times. They failed at doing that once, but to face Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford in an MVP season, and Puka Nacua with over 1,700 yards, and Jared Verse and Murphy combining for that many sacks. You had to face that team 3 times. And I thought that was the single greatest challenge that they would have this year. So I guess comparatively with the Patriots, the Super Bowl, the pressure, the media environment surrounding it is chaotic, and it's really going to be a challenge to try to ignore all of it and perform on the biggest stage. And this is the first Super Bowl for pretty much everyone on both sides of the aisle here. But this is a big moment, right?
There's not a lot of Super Bowl experience in this game. Super Bowl
experience with these 2 teams that are in 2-year turnarounds. But I feel like the toughest battle was won, if that makes sense. And now comes an any given Sunday type of battle. That's how I'm talking about this game. Any given Sunday. You never know what another team could do. But I think you got past the monster, and now comes your big moment.
Yeah. You know, my buddy Tyson and I talk about this a lot, and I love talking with Tyson about football because he is, even though I get a chance to talk to really smart football people on the show every week, he is up there in his understanding of the game. And he and I have both had Sean McVay as our favorite coach in the NFL for years now. And this is the first time that I texted him. I said, I'm not convinced he's the best coach in the NFL anymore. And he was like, who would you put above him? And I only had 2 answers. And they're the 2 coaches in this game.
Wow.
I do not see some giant edge that Mike Macdonald has over Mike Vrabel. I have so much confidence in Mike Vrabel, who played in a bunch of Super Bowls and won a bunch of Super Bowls, and who had the Tennessee Titans as the 1 seed in the AFC as a head coach before. To have these guys ready and to not freak out and get emotional during this game and succumb to the big moment when a big decision is necessary. I don't think we're going to see that part of the equation fold for New England. I think Mike Vrabel is going to have his team very, very ready.
Look, and if we wanted to have the coaching conversation, it sounded like I was sliding McDaniels earlier in the show, but he's also been there, done that, whereas you have Kubiak, not as a first-time OC, but as a first-time OC with Seattle and just his 3rd stint as an offensive coordinator. There's a gap in experience there with these 2 too.
Absolutely. Yeah. Josh McDaniels
he's quite literally
a
been
bunch
part
of
of
rings.
the team that beat Seattle.
He's got a bunch of rings doing exactly what he's going to be called upon to do on Super Bowl Sunday.
I agree.
I won't ask you for a specific score, but what type of game? Last question.
Yeah.
What type of game do you see this going as?
Not as high scoring as the one we just watched. I don't know that either team puts up over 30 just because I don't think that the Seahawks fold against the Patriots the way that they did against the Rams. I mean, the Rams are, like we talked earlier, the only team where they've allowed that many points over a 9-game stretch. So just given that evidence, I see the Patriots as falling into a separate category. I mean, this is a very boring prediction, but like a 28-24 type of game, definitely. I don't think it'll be low scoring. I think that there's just some nice weapons Seattle has, but yeah, I would be surprised if we get into a shootout surpassing 30, but maybe that's something I admit in our next conversation I was wrong about. So, who knows?
Yeah. That's the thing. I've kind of gone back and forth on this one a little bit, and it's funny. We were talking about the poetic nature of Seattle's Super Bowl run, that you're predicting a 28-24 win because that was the score they lost Super Bowl 49 by to the Patriots. So that would be like the ultimate. That would be the ultimate cherry on top of this season if they did that. To me, this is like watching a 2-mile race between a sprinter and a miler, and I think that we could see the Patriots come out and really look good early. But I don't think that they're going to be able to perform at the pace necessary to keep up with the stride of the Seahawks for 60 minutes in this game. And I think it'll probably be close at halftime. And I think the third quarter will have some drama.
Yeah.
And I do think that Seattle will be in position to get a lead of a score or two in the second half and then just play big stack poker and lean on the Patriots until they fall over. So I've got 28-16 Seattle in this game. I think it's a two-score win, but we've got a couple of weeks for that opinion to change because we're going to be hearing a lot of stuff between now and then.
I love your prediction, though. I was reminded of that stat that you said about not allowing any score in the fourth quarter in any of those games. And I was thinking of the Seahawks in the regular season being the best third quarter scoring team in the NFL. And just like, man, that combo in this one, I could buy maybe trailing just a bit and then taking off. So I like that.
Seahawks haven't allowed.
That's a good one.
Yeah. No, Seahawks didn't allow fourth quarter point to the Rams in this game, to the 49ers in the game before it, to the 49ers in the game before that, to the Panthers in the game before that. That is fourth quarters worth of shutout football. Yeah. So they've shown they can do it. They have the proof of concept. Stacey, listen, this has been so awesome. Thank you so much for coming in after a long day of doing exactly what we're doing here and just bringing it. Thank you very, very much.
Happy to, anytime.
And then real quick before we get out of here, just let everyone who might not know where they can hear more of you.
So you can listen to us Monday through Friday on Bump and Stacey from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And if you miss any part of the show, we podcast the entire show on the Bump and Stacey podcast.
Perfect. So you guys are probably listening to that already, but in case you're not, make sure you're tuning in on that every day, right? Monday through Friday, every day. Between now and the Super Bowl and certainly after, when hopefully we're all taking our victory laps. Thank you, Stacey.
Thank you.
All right, guys, that's going to do it for this week. Huge thank you to Stacey for coming in. Always really enjoy the opportunity to chat with her, and just a really, really fun time to have a really fun conversation about this team. As always, you can find Mike and I on social media. I am on Twitter and Blue Sky at @JacksonBevins. That's Jacson. Remember that no K is okay when spelling my name. Mike is on both at @MikeBarwin, and the show itself is @Cigar Thoughts on Twitter and @CigarThoughtsNFL.com on Blue Sky. You can catch full video episodes on our YouTube channel @Cigar Thoughts and find the rest of our socials at CigarThoughtsNFL.com. As mentioned previously, this episode is brought to you by Balvenie Premium Single Malt Scotch Whiskey. Y'all know I'm a huge fan of their lineup, and we are thrilled to have them on board as a sponsor of the show. And one of the great things about a great Scotch is how well it plays with a good cigar. So once again, we do have our own special releases of cigars that you can purchase at a terrific price as a listener of the show. The release of these Cigar Thoughts stogies has been successful enough for us to continue offering them for the low price of $149. That's right, just $149 for a bundle of 10. As many of you know, we partnered with one of the most prestigious cigar manufacturers in the world to release these official Cigar Thoughts cigars, which you can order directly from cigarthoughtsnfl.com. Just follow the link on the show page to get these easy-to-smoke stogies rolled with 13-year aged premium Dominican tobacco leaf, or hit us up on Twitter or Instagram and we'll send you the details directly. The cigars come with a Boveda humidification pack and a Mylar storage bag to make sure they stay fresh whether you have a humidor or not. Of course, you can listen to this show at fieldgoals.com and read the special Cigar Thoughts article that I wrote after the NFC Championship game there as well, and get the show everywhere that you get your podcasts. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts and you like the show, please drop us a 5-star rating and leave a quick review. The feedback is super helpful, and it's always helpful to know which parts of the show you guys like the best. Thank you to all of y'all listening for your continued support of this show. We know you've only got so much time for podcasts in your life, and it is an honor to be a part of that for y'all. Please know that by sharing the show on social media and with your friends, you give us the juice to keep making this happen. We'll be back soon, but in the meantime, onwards and upwards, my friends.